Welcome to the Shabby Detective. I'm your host, Mike White. Joining me, of course, is Mr. Chris Dashew.
I would do something Irish adjacent, but I feel like that's mildly offensive.
Hey, we are just a few days out here from St. Patrick's Day. It's fine to make fun of the Irish.
Let me take a moment here and talk about how we shouldn't be calling drinks Irish car bombs anymore. Because according to an article I read on the internet, the use of the term Irish car bomb, and I shit you not, according to the person who wrote this article, to order an Irish car bomb in Dublin is to go to New York and order a quote, and I'm quoting this article directly, a flaming Twin Towers. Which to me, by the way, would be a very funny drink to sell at Ground Zero in New York. So the fact that no one's done it is a little bit more surprising than anything else, given that UFC fights are being held on the front lawn of the White House. So do we really have any shame anymore? I don't think so, folks. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. If you want to order an Irish car bomb, the acceptable term is an Irish slammer.
Oh, all right.
Which is, I believe, where Joe Devlin is going at the end of this episode.
Straight to the pen, to the Leo pen. Directed by Leo Penn, this is The Conspirators. It is suggested by the story by Pat Robeson, with the teleplay by Howard Burke. And it aired originally May 13th, 1978. It's a 93-minute episode, so we've got some good time killing going on in here. Mostly just
bad time killing,
like a musical sequence thing. That music haunts my dreams. It's rough. That's rough. So we talked about this, well, quite a few times actually, because I kept talking about what a wet fart this whole series ended on back on May 13th, 78. It's funny because I didn't mind this episode as much as I used to, but I still think it's a pretty bad episode. Chris, what did you think of The Conspirators?
This is a real bummer of a way to end, ostensibly, what is the original run of the show. It's a bummer because, like you just said, there's a lack of care to the story in this episode, and it makes Columbo, and I can't believe I'm saying this, and I'm sure you're probably inclined to agree, it makes Columbo effectively useless. He's not really useful. I mean, he's useful in this episode in that he catches Joe Devlin, but there's a point where it's like the FBI are involved. Like, this is above Columbo's head in a way. And it feels like the show doesn't understand what makes this show so great. It's not these kind of like broader, culturally interesting things that are going on, because it does feel like a bit of a stretch that we're talking about the Irish Republican Army here in Southern California. There is a point where a character goes, here in Southern California, and it's like, yeah, I would find it slightly as unbelievable as you would, because that feels like the least efficient way to do anything. To smuggle guns from California to Ireland? What?
It's a long trip.
It's almost like there's a big American city on the East Coast that's much closer, that feels like you could smuggle guns from a lot easier, but Columbo's not there. He's not based there. So for me, this episode just feels it feels very forced for what they're talking about. I love Columbo. Clive Revill is great, and their back and forth, I think, is fine. You know, that never is really the problem in these episodes. Is it a problem that we've had more than once that Columbo and the guest murderer have a bad back and forth? It's been like a handful of times in the last 7 seasons. So it's almost like saying in this day and age, the movie looks nice. Like, I would hope a movie made in 2026 is well made. So I would hope that the back and forth between Columbo and the murderer is well written, because that ends up kind of being the backbone of any of these episodes. And that's probably the best part of this episode for me, is Columbo and Joe Devlin, the murderer played by Clive Revill, their back and forth. Everything else it's either above Columbo's head or it's just kind of broadly uninteresting. So I'm curious what your thoughts are, Mike, because you said you enjoyed it more this time, and as someone who'd never seen it before, it's going to be a while until I come back to see if I can have a repeat viewing that I might reappreciate it in a different way. So I'm curious what you thought, reappreciating something you clearly did not like the first time you saw it.
Yeah, pretty much any time that I ever saw this episode.
Every time I've seen it.
This is not one that I tend to see in reruns very often. And when I would catch it, it always felt like a fever dream because of this whole Northern Ireland thing that's going on. So we should probably explain a little bit. So it's Joe Devlin, who you mentioned, played by Clive Revill, who's this author, poet, piano player, banjo player, raconteur. Just seems to be. He's almost like the Will Rogers of Ireland or something. Just like, oh, I'm this general.
Bing Crosby type, like he's like like I wouldn't say like a folk hero, but cultural icon.
And he's friends with these two people, and actually three people, because he's got kind of his, what'd you call this guy? Like his ward, maybe. This younger guy kind of looks a little bit like Jeff Bridges.
You know who this actually really reminds me of? Spalding Gray. Because there's even like A Night with Joe Devlin. It's like that same, like, again, like they're tapping into something that I think is interesting, but then they start muddying the waters with the thing that you're talking about, where it's like, and he has a ward, and he's also Irish, and he's also for the Irish people, a domestic terrorist. You've wrapped too much into this one character is kind of what it feels like.
Yeah, that's his deep, dark secret, is that with the collusion of the O'Connells, Kate and George, Kate played by Jeanette Nolan and George played by Bernard Behrens. And I love Bernard Behrens, by the way. He was in a John Pay's film called Top of the Food Chain. I think it's also called something else nowadays, and Invasion, it might have been called. He plays this hilarious mayor character, Mayor Claire. Every male character in the movie has female names, or like that gender neutral names, which is great. He's great. I love him in this. And this, I still kind of don't know everything that's going on with this couple, but yeah, basically Clive Revill as Joe Devlin is a terrorist, and they are running guns and I really shouldn't say terrorist, because
they're not. I mean, I don't think they're terrorists, but again, by Ireland at the time standards, that's why I said what I said, to be very specific. I don't consider any of this terrorism now, like fighting for freedom and your own right to do what you want is not terrorism, but by the Irish definition at the time, they were. It's hard for me to consider it that because, I wasn't there. I'm only hearing about it secondhand, the troubles and stuff like that. I mean, again, the Irish car bomb opening of this episode was a joke in a way, but at the same time, it was just St. Paddy's Day. That is a thing that I'm assuming if you did go order in Ireland, people would not look at you in a very positive way. And that's because of this, like because of the Irish Republican Army, because of them wanting freedom, Northern Ireland from Southern Ireland. Like this was a real thing. It's a weird thing for Columbo to be trafficking in. Like,
yeah. And so the idea of this episode actually came from, I believe it was a book that the author had written. And then our producer friend, who to me kind of, ruined this whole season, Richard Allen Simmons, he's been the showrunner for this season, and I really feel like he took it in this weird direction. Again, we've got fucking this old man. We can't go an episode now without this old man coming into it somehow. I'm surprised that there wasn't a duet between Falk and Revill in this episode. But yeah, just this whole thing of the guy who gets killed, and then the whiskey bottle that gets kicked over to him. I guess it was another brand of whiskey that was a real brand. So then they had to make up the fake brand in here with the dew, which I've never heard of dew as a drink before, but that sounds really good. It sounds like there's a lot of alcohol in there.
So that's where Mountain Dew comes from. The term Mountain Dew comes from that colloquialism for Tullamore Dew. So Mountain Dew was supposed to be the non-alcoholic Dew, Tullamore Dew. That's a Scotch whiskey. Yeah.
How much do you think this guy drinks? Because whenever he goes
apparently, apparently, like a metric fuck ton. It's like they made him every stereotypical thing that people think of Irish people in 1978, which is so lazy. On top of everything, why didn't they make him 4 foot tall, wearing a green suit with orange hair and a small pot of gold? I mean, he has an Irish accent too. I mean, like they lean into effectively everything. The way I look at it, like it's lazy.
Oh yeah. I'm surprised he didn't say "gosh" and "begorra" at some point.
I know that in 1978, this was a thing that was known to the world that was going on, and there was a lot of violence in Ireland. But why Columbo? I can't figure that out. And on all the research, I didn't see anything that was like, well, it was somebody's cause celeb or something. It's just because, seemingly. Because like you said, someone read a book and was like, this seems like an interesting thing Columbo would be involved in. Like, does it? It was like Columbo being involved in the JFK assassination investigation, which is totally not a real thing in one of those books.
Disappearance of Jimmy Hoffa or the Helter Skelter killings. Yeah, oh yeah.
Are those the other
Yes,
ones?
yes. I
Oh
can
my
see him
God.
from here. So yeah.
Columbo and Manson in the same room together would be pretty great.
Well, it's really strange too because of the actual murder that happens in this episode. Basically, what is it? They don't want to pay this Mr. Pauly, the gunrunner guy. They don't want to pay him what he's asking for these weapons. And I guess our guy thinks that he can scam weapons from him. He murders Mr. Pauly, kicks over this whiskey bottle because it says, give every man his
Give every
due.
man his due. Yeah, because it's on every single bottle that he scratches with his ring.
This far and no farther. So we've got like two things that we just hear constantly: this far and no farther, which is the whole thing of the scratch across the bottle where I'm going to only drink this much because I guess he's a functional alcoholic. And then, yeah, give every man his due, which is the line on the bottle, which is basically Clive Revill's character is so clever that he's like, oh, I'm giving this guy's comeuppance, but I don't think he deserved to die. And it just seems like a very weird plan. It feels very unmotivated that he even murders this guy.
I don't understand why he murders him, because the guy's taking money. Okay. We've seen more interesting reasons for people being killed in this show. And that is such a uninteresting one when you have this setup. I guess that's the other thing. For a setup this complex, a setup this kind of involved, because again, like, we have to get people in Southern California to believably be smuggling guns for the IRA. I'm not saying they don't get there. I'm just saying they do a lot of heavy lifting in 90 minutes to get there, and it feels like a bit of a stretch. Everything leans into it is a bit of a stretch. All of this is a bit of a stretch.
So I guess what it is that Pauly is selling these guns to Devlin and his friends, but he's trying to take money off the top. He's skimming off of this, but I'm like, he's a gun dealer. Like, of course he's going to skim, you know? This is illegal stuff. Of course you're going to try to make money off of it.
I stopped buying from my dealer back in the day before I started going to legal states to buy because they ripped me off twice. What am I going to do? Go to the cops? What do you do when your dealer rips you off? That's the cost of doing business on a black market, is the way I look at it, which in my mind, like, that's not really much of a reason in this episode. Clive Revill is already doing something illegal. Why would he care that somebody else is stealing from him?
I guess it's because he believes in the cause so much that he feels that Pauly is a traitor, because he says we execute traitors after he murders this guy.
One less person for the cause, I guess. Fucking stupid last time I checked.
He steals all of the papers out of this guy's room, except for the one big clue that the guy has kept under a lamp that says what, LAB 213 or something. And that's the ship and the berth and all this kind of stuff. There's this whole thing of him, Revell's character, going to all of these people trying. What's he trying to do? Buy guns or like figure out a way to get the guns out of the country? I guess it is. But
yeah, figure out how to get them out of the country.
It just feels so convoluted. I mean, I was glad to see LQ Jones. I always enjoy seeing him show up, though not on screen very much. And also, surprisingly, I don't remember a scene with LQ Jones and Columbo. I mean, that's one of the problems that I have with this episode, is that I understand we move away from Columbo quite often to come back to the killer and see what the killer is up to. But it really feels like Columbo is the guest star in this episode, and he's barely on screen.
And that's what I was kind of driving at with my statement about this being above Columbo. Like, it doesn't feel like an episode where Columbo is necessary to solve it. It doesn't feel like Columbo solves it in a way that no one else could. And that's always that's the thing about Columbo. That is the idea behind the Columbo character, is that he is someone that you bring in or comes in to solve a crime that no one else could because of his deductive skills. And this is a waste of his time because this is an FBI thing. The FBI are going to catch this guy. the Coast Guard are going to catch this guy. Columbo's not needed here. It feels almost like two disparate ideas that got mashed together because IRA.
Or because of hey, this was a cool book idea. We're going to take this and try to slam Columbo inside of it.
Is topicality something that's necessary in 1978 to write a good mystery show? No, because we haven't had topicality for most of this show.
There are sometimes like little nods to things, but not like this, not this. Yeah, the politics. I mean, this reminds me a lot of the Leslie Nielsen, Patrick McGowan one, where it's, these spy games. And again, it's like, what is Columbo doing trying to solve this? And yes, there is one level where it's a murder that happened in California and Columbo is assigned to it. And, he walks out of that cloud of smoke and comes in, that whole McGowan over directing kind of thing. And then eventually Larry Tate from Bewitched shows up and he's just like, hey, you're kind of out of your depth. Like this is a CIA matter. Like you don't really need, see your way out of it kind of thing. And this, it feels like, what are you doing in this world political stage? Yes, there was a murder that took place here in California, but to your point, Chris, it feels like it's pretty easy to solve. Like him mulling over this whole birth thing, it's like, I feel like he's just playing cat and mouse with Revill, where he's just like, oh, what could this stand for? And the way that they're both laying back on these beds, trying to come up with different ideas of what that number and acronym could stand for. I'm like, okay, this feels like a big stretch. And like, I agree. I like the back and forth between Falk and Revill. I think that's probably the best part of the show. But the rest of it, the mystery itself, and at last I checked, this was a mystery show. It's just not there.
Theoretically, anyways, it has the concept of a mystery, Mike.
What are you guys doing here?
I feel like what they're doing is trying to bring something else to the show that it doesn't need. And what it doesn't need is involvement in world events in a sideways way to stay. I don't know what they're doing it for, unless they're thinking like, well, Columbo's not going to stay relevant if we don't do this. And it's like, Columbo doesn't. They're still showing reruns of Murder, She Wrote now. Like, those episodes are not relevant. Nothing, because that's the point. Like, there's nothing relevant that's happening in those episodes. What's happening in those episodes is just good old-fashioned murder. And that's timeless. Like, I don't need you to connect it to things that are going on unless that's literally the point of the show. But the fact that this is taking place on the West Coast and that's on the East Coast, like Ireland is effectively closer to the East Coast than it is the West Coast, it's goofy. And it makes it feel like you said, Columbo is a passenger on his own tugboat, his own boat out to sea. And they've sent Columbo out to sea in this show. Like, this season has just really made me disappointed that the people that were writing the show seemingly must have worked on Night Gallery beforehand.
Deep cut. There's some time wasting parts. The whole thing with Devlin on the radio and Columbo calling him up, having his car breaks down and stuff. It's just like, okay, enough. And just all of the, we're not finding anything on this boat, Lieutenant. And it's like, all right, trust me, you will eventually, because you're going to figure out this whole idea of
the matter of time.
Exactly. You're going to figure out the whole thing with the flag, because that was kind of ham-fistedly shoved in there.
Or needlepoint is the same.
His nephew wanted two things that night: needlepoint or weightlifting. That's what it was. It's like, okay, great. Yeah.
What a stretch. As a fan of Columbo, as someone who's seen past here, because this is this big inflection point that we've been leading up to with the show, does where we are now, and having rewatched it up until this point together, do you feel like this last season is as bad as you remember it being, having gone through and rewatched it critically together?
It's so tough with just 5 episodes. It's weak sauce, 5 episodes. Conspirators, I said last time, this is as bad as, Last Salute to the Commodore. I guess it's the idea of the tugboat and the boat and all that stuff that reminds me of Last Salute. It's not nearly as bad as that, but it's not a good episode. I really enjoyed talking with you about how to Dial a Murder, which isn't a perfect episode, but is enjoyable. But other than like feel like Murder Under Glass, even though again it was a lot. Yeah, that's it. Like a couple bright spots basically between Louis Jourdan and Nicole Williamson. That's it. I mean, like, yeah, Clive Revill's fine in this episode, playing the embodiment of a leprechaun that wants to murder people and wants to murder the British.
So he's Warwick Davis.
Warwick Davis.
Warwick
Davis. Yeah. It's going to be smoking down pretty soon, going out into space. It'll be great.
I unabashedly love those leprechaun movies and will hear no slander.
I hear they've got a lot to offer, so.
There sure are a lot of them. That's for sure. Also, casual homophobia in some of those movies, with Warwick Davis being forced to deliver such lines as, "I was looking for my magic flute, not a bunch of fucking fruits," or something. It's great. I mean, if Clive Revill had delivered that line, I don't think we'd be having this conversation in such hushed tones.
He definitely is a poet, that's for sure.
Raconteur, Clive Revill.
No, it's a weird season. I mean, yeah, this is like the break. I think there are probably some Columbo shows that just don't ever go further than this. They might just be like, nope, we're not going to talk about the...
What sort of completionist ass shit is that, or lack of? Commit to the fucking bit or not.
No, we're going to be watching, a Romanian film, I think it is, with the Columbo character. We might talk about some Japanese films that have a Columbo character. I mean, yeah, we're completionists here. Come on.
Yeah, we know that you, the listener, are here for the due diligence that we as podcasters have. Our reputations precede us here. You wouldn't expect us to do anything less. So yeah, we're not done for a while.
We've got a little bit of a break here, and we'll talk about Peter Falk. We'll talk about some more Lincoln Levinson here, but yeah, we're going to take a little hiatus from Columbo itself until we get to where we feel satisfied, and then we'll come back and we'll start talking about those later years. So hopefully we will
Columbo the later.
Well, I'm hoping we'll find some good things in that, because I'm very curious where we go with this, because I remember liking some of these later episodes. I don't remember liking all of them. In fact, there's at least one that's pretty embarrassing, but yeah, I'm excited to talk about these with you, Chris.
Yeah, I am as well. And, I have no preconceived notion about what Columbo is going to be when we come back. I guess the only thing I can compare it to, and you tell me how off I am, and I don't know how much frame of reference you have with this, and it would be something fun to do as like a follow-up show to this when we're done, would be I wonder if this is like what happened with Perry Mason, because Perry Mason has that same thing where Perry Mason was a black and white show, obviously, and then it came back as a television movie the way Columbo did. So I'm wondering if this is going to have that same feel when we come back to it, because again, I it's not like I know a lot of Perry Mason fans, but I mean, I know a fair amount of Columbo fans. So I wonder if it'll have that same feel. And I don't know if you've seen the Perry Mason TV movies I'm talking about, or the original show, but that's kind of the only thing I could compare this to in terms of like what I think my expectations might be for the next phase of our Columbo show.
The thing I always remember about the Perry Mason shows is there are some that don't even have Raymond Burr. I want to say it's the guy who was in...
He's a Great American Hero.
Well,
believe it or not, Mike, he's walking on air.
Oh, he was Tommy Lee Jones's brother in No Country for Old Men, mostly known for Northern Exposure. I believe he was like the faux... Perry's out of the country, I'm going to take this case type of thing. Kind of like when Tom Bosley would show up and be Jessica Fletcher.
William Catt is in Perry Mason. Yeah, he's Paul Drake Jr.
Yeah, because his mother is Della Street. So yeah. Oh yeah. I don't know why I just thought that he wasn't in that one.
Was Matlock a came back show, or Matlock was just always old Andy Griffith?
Matlock was always old Andy Griffith until he became old Kathy Bates.
Oh, right. You mean Bobo Bates? That's her real name. Bobo Bates. I remember that because I watched some movie where she's like in it it's like her first movie. I forget what the hell it is, but it was like, and starring Bobo Bates.
I do remember seeing some young Kathy Bates, and I'm
Was
just
that
like,
us?
it might have been. She would just like
In our
show
old
up.
age, we've forgotten whatever it was we were watching.
Yeah, yeah. She would like show up out of nowhere, and we're like, "Who? What? What is going on here?" I remember her showing up in like Straight Time because I did an episode on that one forever ago.
Is that what it was?
Nah, it has to be something else because you weren't on that episode.
It was Taking Off, is what it was.
Oh, there you go. We
Taking
did
Off.
talk
That was
about
a
that.
Milos
Yep.
Forman film, sir.
That was when we did that whole Milos Forman month. Yeah.
Credited as Bobo Bates. I forgot that she became Matlock. Where's that? Where's Columbo recast as a woman? Oh, wait, never mind. It got canceled. And that's why I canceled my Peacock TV subscription, because I don't support platforms that do shit like that. And also, there's no more Columbo to watch. So you're not getting any more of my money, Peacock TV.
That's right. Yeah. No Mrs. Columbo. Maybe we should do a Mrs. Columbo. Yeah.
I was about to say, maybe we should do a Mrs. Columbo episode. I have a weird sideways connection to Mrs. Columbo through a previous project I worked on with Alan Sachs, the co-creator of Welcome Back, Kotter. The gentleman who allegedly murdered Peter Ivers' daughter plays Kate Mulgrew's daughter on Mrs. Columbo, which is super weird and a sideways connection. And also, like, Mrs. Columbo, not a thing that people even realize happened. And I want to say a couple episodes into that show, they unbranded it as Mrs. Columbo.
Yeah, it had a few names. It was Kate Columbo, and Kate the Detective, and Kate Loves the Mystery.
Yeah. What does that have to do with Columbo? Who is Kate in all of this?
Yeah, maybe we should go through and see like what is the top rated episode via IMDb and pick one of those. So we're either gonna come back and do that because that was 1979 to 1980, kind of filling in this gap of no Columbo, or we're going to talk about a Romanian film called Uncle Marin, the Billionaire, because there is a character in there who is based on Columbo. So when we found a English subtitled version of it, so we can actually watch it and not have to learn Romanian. So we should be good with that.
I'm disappointed that we're not covering Der Hummel über Berlin at some point.
Oh, we can.
We should. Maybe we should. I don't know. That's just Peter Falk showing up. But it is technically also Columbo. It's like also it is Columbo apparently.
Yeah, everybody calls him Columbo in there, and yeah, he's great in that. That movie it's a really good.
Never
movie.
seen it.
At least that's. Oh well, I hope. Yeah, we should probably talk about it.
I've never seen City of Angels either. Maybe I should leave that one off the list.
Maybe leave that off the list. Yeah.
Oh, I'm an angel. Whoa. Okay. Yeah, I didn't realize that that's what that movie was the remake of.
And there was a sequel, Far Away So Close, that is not good at all.
I do love me some Bruno Gans, though. So
yeah, no, Gans is great, and especially Wings of Desire.
Well, I love him in The House That Jack Built. Where he plays Verge or Virgil. Probably not a movie that people who listen to this show should go and watch, but I don't know.
When it comes to Kate Columbo, looks like there's a few episodes that they list as top rated on IMDb. The highest rating is either season 2, episode 5 or season 2, episode 6. So maybe we'll take a look at who the guest stars are and choose one of those.
And yeah, the daughter is Lily Hayden, who is, she is the daughter of David Joe, who I have one of his albums on my wall. And there's a whole, it was a very weird sideways connection because I know we had talked about maybe talking about it many moons ago, but I didn't think we'd actually get to it.
Yeah, well, here we are. We will be.
Peter Falk said it was disgraceful and a bad idea. And, he's the arbiter of all good things.
Maybe we'll watch the one with Armand Assante in here as Teddy Faust. I'm sure there's nothing evil about him with that name, Teddy Faust.
Both seasons of Mrs. Columbo are available on a 5-disc set, by the way. Madame Columbo, Saisons 1 and 2, or Un and Deux, possibly, because it's only in France. Which is wild that it's actually gotten a physical release. Like, Jesus Christ, Frank. Like, that's the most shocking thing to learn today, other than a couple other physical media release things, but my God, who would buy that?
Big Kate Mulgrew fans.
Somebody must have. There's no other reason that this show would have had any sort of reappropriation in this day and age, right?
I remember watching episodes when I was growing up and just being like, what the hell is this? Especially when it was like Mrs. Columbo. And I'm like, what? Like, this doesn't make any sense.
Not only does it not make any sense, it feels like a real stretch. Like, I mean, I get it. Like, I understand what they were going for and they're trying to be clever, but it was just a joke in the show. It's used over and over again. And we even make light of the fact that like, he may not even have a real wife. He could just be a total kook.
Could just be a way to get inside of the criminals' heads.
But yeah, I think we should watch an episode or two of that. Sure, why not?
So yeah, maybe what I'll do is I'll make a list of what we're going to watch, and maybe for the super fans, the people that are on our Patreons or something, I'll post that so people know what's coming up. And for the rest of you slobs, get on over to our Patreons and join up there. How's that?
I couldn't have put it any better myself. I don't know if I would have called them slobs, but you know, you said the quiet part out loud.
Well, until we come back with that, Chris, whatever that may be, what are you working on these days?
I am working on all things podcast and podcast related over at weirdingwaymedia.com, where the Culture Cast comes out once, if not twice a week, where I talk about movies, either by myself screaming into a microphone like a bozo, or with other people screaming into the microphones collectively like bozos. You can find all that at weirdingwaymedia.com or at patreon.com/culturecast, where I ask for money on the internet and get some. Mike, what about you?
Yeah, pretty much the same thing. The only thing is our Patreons, which is patreon.com/culturecast and patreon.com/projection booth, where, yeah, go on over. I try to post some episodes early. We've got our exclusive Patreon show, which will be ending pretty soon, ranking on Bond. Hopefully we'll come up with something to replace that.
Oh, we will.
I'm sure we will. So we'll have some good times with that one. But yeah, come on over, check those out. And in the meantime, stay tuned for something that we're not quite sure what it's going to be, but it will definitely be Columbo related in some way.
I love it. How vague.